Good morning. I'm so pleased to have the honor of introducing Jay, Reverend Dr. J. Exodus Hooper, PhD. He's a member of our society who spoke here several times, and we're so happy to have them back. Jay launched our Ethics for Children program in 2015 and has journeyed far since then. A theater history fellow, Jay received a PhD from the School of Interdisciplinary Arts at Ohio University and ethical humanist clergy, both as performer and clergy within the ethical culture movement and First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. Their ritual-based performance is grounded in the act of homiletics, decolonial humanism, and Black intellectual thought. Jay's love for orality involves the aesthetic of Black folk talk, one of imagination as meaning making. Jay's word working emphasizes human freedom and interconnectedness through embodiment, intuition, creativity, and improvisation. Jay is the president of the National Leaders Council of the AEU and consultant clergy leader at Susquehanna Valley Ethical Society in Pennsylvania. We are so happy to welcome Jay and hear him speak to us again. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be home. Hey, Riverdale, good to see all of your faces, see the groove. I love the groove. The music is everything. You know, I'm all about my music. So I really appreciate it. It's so good to see everybody. You know, as this, it's unfortunate that I have to be here for this on this occasion, because I know Joan would have possibly spoke, but as many times as I have been with Joan and started my journey in Riverdale, I will say always Riverdale birthed me, you know, and so I'm always grateful to be here. I want to share with you in your hearing the opportunity of a great book that I have picked up along the way, entitled The Black Flamingo, if you've never heard of it. And it's written by Dean Ada. And The Black Flamingo is about a young man by the name of Michael, who is in a journey searching for Michael's own unique inherited worth, right, as we would say. And Michael so happens to be Greek and Jamaican, but as he moves through life, he realizes that in some aspects of the world that he is living in, he's not Black enough, nor is he Greek enough. And at the same time, it begins to explore not only just areas of race, but other areas of identity that lead him into a community that holds radical space for him, which is in the drag community. And so I want to share with you this just a section of this book as we begin to talk about beyond diversity. Beyond diversity. The next day, as the bell goes at the end of history class, I asked Daisy, want to get lunch together? I feel like she needs the company as much as me. Do you have a packed lunch? Asked Daisy. No, I paused. I get free school meals. Well, she said, you can sit with me after you've eaten. I'll be in B24, bring a book. I don't have a book. And I think I might have a new friend. I'm finishing my lunch, wolfing it down extra quickly in the cafeteria. I need to go to the library and pick up a book before I go to B24 to meet Daisy. But then come some girls, two in front and one next to me. The girl next to me wears glasses. Her blonde hair is in a ponytail. Hey, I'm Grace, says the blonde, then points. This is Faith, and this is Destiny. Faith and Destiny smile, and Faith says, "Hey, you're the new boy, Michael, right?" They both have their hairs tied back as well. Destiny is black and her hair is straightened. Faith looks mixed like me. Her hair is slicked down with a scrunchie that she wears, and her hair poofs out. It almost looks like a halo. I can't tell if it's just because I've eaten too much lunch so quickly that I'm feeling like dread. I decided to swallow the feeling. "Yeah, that's me," I said, finishing up my sponge cake. "Nice to meet you." Grace asked, "So why are you new?" Grace asked, "Why are you new?" Michael is in particularly probably the first day of school here in this moment. And Michael is, when we first hear the story of Michael, Michael is interested in getting lunch with a friend. And clearly, Michael eats free lunch, of course, because of the economic difference between maybe him and Daisy. Daisy packs her lunch and Daisy goes to B24 and then reads a book. Michael has to come to meet with Daisy, but in order to meet with Daisy, Daisy has seemed to set parameters on being in Daisy's space. Michael needs a book. Michael can't come until Michael is done eating Michael's food. And this experience of hoping to have a new friend creates new obstacles. New obstacles, just as Faith and Destiny and Grace were pointing out. Why are you new? What an interesting question. Why are you new? Why are you new? I'd like to ask some of my friends and some of my beloved ones in this space, why are you new? Well, you probably say to me immediately, I've been to River, I've been here so long. I'm not new. You'd probably say to me that you have stories and histories in the Bronx, and you've been familiar with ethical culture all your life. And I still would ask you the question, why are you new? I don't ask it maybe from the same space in which the book is asking, but I think it is a very important question for us to realize that sometimes, if we're going to do real work of equity and inclusion and diversity, we have to realize what new things are coming about in us. What new things are we evolving into as we come into this space? What new things do we offer when we share in this space together? We are not just veterans and seasoned folk who hold this space. We are those who actually treasure this space, but every treasure requires something new. So I invite you to think about for a moment, if you will, why are you new as we journey further into this conversation about beyond diversity? Because for me, I realize that oftentimes I come in very similar to Michael, almost like an unseen guest. And I invite you to maybe, in some cases, even though I'm very familiar with Riverdale, to do yourself a favor and be the unseen guest that you have yet to discover about you. What did you leave behind this week that you didn't want to bring to this moment? What are you willing to bring at this present moment that also allows for us to see you in your full self? What are the stories that you're not able to tell others that you know that you can tell here? What are the aspects of your very unique self, such as maybe being a geek who loves to build things or write things, or maybe you're the one who likes to dance and sing loudly in the shower, and you know your voice is horrible, but you decide to do it anyway, and you want to share that song with everybody else. Maybe it's the moment where, you know, honestly, you prefer that you like to be isolated and alone, and you love to sit and knit all day and every day, and nobody better not bother you as you're drinking your coffee early in the morning because you don't like to be disturbed. It's a real thing. We all have something that allows for us, when we get ourselves together, to show up in a space. But when we can show up as the new thing that nobody else knows, we become unseen guests, even to a space that we're very familiar with. We become unseen guests, offering various properties of our humanity in order to challenge each other as they navigate the world. Yes, I said challenge. That we sit in a very unique challenge of navigating relationships, that we sit in a challenge of belovedness and blessedness and humanity. And sometimes it can be absolutely, just like Michael, downright uncomfortable. Will I fit in? Or do I, for this moment, maybe for ethical culture, especially for some of our spaces, am I too young to be in this space? Or maybe the table is flipped. Maybe I'm not dressed appropriately. Do I need to go get a book? Do I need to go get my PhD before I come to ethical culture and be an ethical culture leader? I went through all of these things. I can only speak from experience, but I just know that there was so much of a caliber that required for me as I thought to show up. What did it mean to be authentically myself? It was very interesting, if I may share in short. I remember finishing the dissertation, and I remember going through my defense. And at the very end of my defense, and at the end of the proclamation of me as Dr. J, my committee person, very amazing professor, Winsome Chinunu, said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Glad it's done." She said, "What I liked about you, and what I've always admired about you, is that you never lost yourself in getting this work. It's always been about character instead of accolades." And so I invite you to think about, what are the characteristics of who you are when you come into a space? What about particularly this community, this congregation, this experience that allows for you? Because if I may make a real subtle definition between community and congregation, is the following. It is very easy to get people to come together. That, I often say, is community. And so we can work together to do something for the good of those. But congregation does something different. And I know some of our dear friends might have some religious trauma, and I respect that, and I want to hold space for that. So please do not feel as if I'm coming towards you. I only use congregation as an antonym for segregation. Because if we're going to really go beyond diversity, we have to get to a place where we understand that segregation was built on the framework of separating others and being committed to an act of prejudice against another, right? When we do congregational work, it's bringing together and creating belonging with each other, right? And being committed to that belonging, right? And so there's an accountability attached to a congregational community. And so here, ethical culture in Riverdale have been an accountable community, willing to answer to each other's call, willing to answer to the call of those that we also say are that are not perfect, but are constantly in practice. Those who are actually not seeking to do, not necessarily just seeking right beliefs, but right action. We know it because it's in our core to do so. These are the things that allow for us to develop what we understand as a congregational community, because we have decided to commit ourselves to being accountable to not only just belonging, but to others becoming. So as I invite you to the becoming part of going beyond diversity, I am asking you what is new, meaning in the words of James Baldwin, who would say, if God had any validity at all, if the concept of God has any validity at all, Baldwin says, it should only have the ability to make you larger, freer, and more loving. If God cannot do those things, then it is time to get rid of him. I love that quote by Baldwin. Baldwin offers us something deeper, offering something more magnified about our own humanity, that in many ways, maybe we've comprehended, that we think we've comprehended enough about ourselves. Are we freer? Are we more loving? Are we larger? Are our arms big enough to hold some of the biggest conflicts around us? Are we showing up for those who are struggling, especially in our Asian communities who are now recently being attacked? Are we looking at those who are constantly being ostracized and victimized and criminalized? Are we able to have a larger arm span of holding each other a little bit closer? Are we able to have a heart that generates so much love that it permeates even ourselves to a place where we didn't realize that we could love beyond our own expectations and values? Getting to a place where we maybe love and while we are in discomfort. It is not all the time comfortable, but we lean into it. We walk into it. It's great to think about the process of how we go beyond community, how we go beyond community. As this month being Black History Month, I know we've seen probably commercials and social medias and images of historic Black figures. And I want to highlight this idea of love. Baldwin says that love is a state of being. Love is a state of being or a state of grace. Not in the infantile American sense of being made happy, but in the tough and universal quest and daring and growth. Maybe it is time to ask, when we do come to community, why are you new? For all my friends who love science in the room, if I may indulge you just for a few minutes, and I realize that even at my age, I am 37 going on 38. For many of you, you would say, oh, you're just a baby. And I myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a grown person, right? But if I may indulge you just for a moment, and thinking about this daring and quest and the idea of what it means to be new, I realized that as I was saying this thing where we often say, I'm just, I'm 37 years old. And so I've gotten really comfortable now just saying, like, I've got 37 years of experience in life. And you probably are wondering why I would say that, because one of the things that came up to me recently is the joy of realizing that our bodies generate new cells. it is constantly generating new cells. So I paused and I said, hold on, you mean to tell me I'm not really getting old? I'm just getting newer? Now, this might be a very interesting concept for some of us because we don't feel that and we don't think about that. But our body is constantly generating new cells, constantly renewing them. And the question of what makes us new was like, wow, how refreshing to think that our own body is generating these cells that allow for us, in some way, what we think is aging is a process of renewal. And maybe we have not invited that aspect of renewal into our life. Maybe we haven't thought about the things that regenerate us. And maybe we haven't thought about the things that, offer us a regeneration in the midst of a changing world. In the midst of a changing practice of community. Today we are on Zoom. I'm sure many of us have never imagined a time such as this. But I admire all of you who have brought your newness to this experience. Because that means that in that moment, you are offering yourself a sense of what James Baldwin says, the state of being. The state of being that requires quest, daring, and growth. It's the moment that the cells generate, that they are daring to take on the year that you have coming. It's the moment that the cell shows up and generates its own energy. It's how you take care of yourself in the midst of the renewal while things are changing. Because if you're going to get beyond diversity, if you're going to get beyond that, you have to see yourself as the unseen guest and go into a place where you realize your own discovery. Maybe it is time for you to rediscover yourself. We are literally never too old for that. We are constant renewal. We are in constant renewal. And I invite you to consider that. I invite you to go ahead and look at all of the things that, yes, that might have shaped your life, but look at the things that you are blooming into. Are you more interested in your human condition, or are you more interested in your human flourishing? Where do you want to go is the question that I think that many of us as ethical culturists have to ask ourselves. Is our community in vain? When I show up, I have to ask myself, am I showing up only for myself, or am I showing up in the act of accountability and going beyond my discomforts and having courageous conversation as well as courageous listening? Is my community in vain? Is an inquiry of both my personal and public reveal that allows for me to see the intersections of both strength and challenges, both collectively and individually, and helping me put pieces together. Today, I am able to put pieces together because we are deciding to share an experience that is beyond the diversity. These are questions that are near and dear to any heart regarding fellowship, any heart of relationship, that if we can dare together, we can grow together. If we decide to go on a quest together, we can grow together. If we decide to go ahead and meet each other, hopefully our love can meet wisdom and our curiosity can meet questions. And our values align with our actions. When you decide to simply realize that you are the renewal, maybe you'll see that your presence is just not in vain, that this is not just a routine. This gets us beyond diversity when we realize that this is a moment of ritual. And for scholars, performance theorists like Richard Schechner, they would invite you to consider ritual as a moment of transformation. The moment that we ask, why are we new? The moment that we ask, why do we show up? Like Michael, I hope that we don't hide ourselves or feel intimidated to make others comfortable in order to hang out with them. Or in many words, in the words of Dr. Howard Thurman, Dr. King's mentor, who would say it best, I want to be me without making it uncomfortable for you to be you. You are a pulse. You are a pulse. Maybe you don't identify with the pulse, but maybe you are maybe you need to know that you are the flow for this space. You get the blood going, and maybe the idea of a community being in vain, maybe you need to realize that you're the biggest part of the vein to keep the community from being in vain. You are the aliveness. You are the heart that is seeking for change. You are also the change that we are waiting for. All I'm asking you to do, if you can with me, like Baldwin, get in a state of being, of love, a daring, a quest, growth, and come to the realization that my life becomes diverse because of your life. And you are a part of that bigger experience of this community not being in vain, because you are the vein. You are the heartbeat. Thank you.